All right, today we're going to look at how to properly use colored pencils from layering using what I like to call the step down method, where you work from light colors and then gradually layer darker and darker colors to create really dramatic 3D effects and get some really dynamic illustrations with your colored pencils. So in this example here, you can see there's a highlight in the center, and then there's a gradual kind of fade into the dark. So what we're going to look at is how to create highlight and shadow by layering our colored pencils. And once you're able to master that, really you can go any direction with it. This is an illustration using colored pencils, and here's another illustration using colored pencils, but this is all just basic layering using this gradual step down method. So let's take a look at it. Now before we actually start in with the color, and I'm going to do an example on this little template sheet here, what we're going to look at is how to gradually step down from light to dark. So in this case here, maybe we want to start with a yellow base. What you're going to do is try to layer colors as close to that yellow base as you can. And then you'll go basically as dark as you want. So we might go yellow, chartreuse, apple, grass green, dark green. And then if you wanted to go even darker, you could go in a black. I'm not a big fan of black in colored pencil, but you can do whatever you want. Another example might be starting with, we've got Spanish orange, and then maybe working a yellow orange, orange, red, Tuscan red, dark brown, and then of course you could go black, but that's probably too dark. Or maybe you want to work with some blues. You might start with a light blue, then go ultramarine, indigo, and then of course black if you want. Okay, but the key is to layer in layers, stepping down as close to the color that you just put down as possible so that you get a nice even fade. So let's do one with kind of a yellow base. So basically what we're going to do, take your lightest color, whatever color you're wanting to work with. In this case it's going to be a Spanish orange. And what you're going to do is, in the shadowy area, you're going to press a little bit harder with your colored pencil. And then as you move up into the highlighted area, you're going to ease up the pressure a little bit. Meaning, when you hit the highlight, you're just not going to press as hard as you are in the area where there's going to be more shadow. So on this little practice template here, we're going to come in from each side. And I apologize for the table shaking. Hopefully the camera is not shaking as well. I apologize if you get motion sickness. So my first layer here, maybe it's this Spanish orange. I'm going to carry that color all the way across the center. Now in my step down, this is probably a little too close, so I think we're going to go ahead and step down maybe to the orange. So in the shadow side, you're going to press a little bit harder, layering right on top of your first layer, and then you're going to taper it off. You're going to ease up a little bit. Wherever you decide, I'm going to suggest in this particular example about 1/3 of the way up the shape. Then I'm going to do it again from the other side. Trying to keep the shadow off of the template. Now when you're coloring in colored pencil, you definitely want to keep your colored pencils sharpened, because dull colored pencils make dull illustrations. And you're going to see a whole lot of white specks showing through. Alright, so the next step down in our layering here was red. So I'm just going to keep layering right on top of the other. Now maybe you're fine with just 3 layers. It really just depends on how many colored pencils you have access to. I have a nice 36 count Prismacolor tin here. So I have a lot to choose from. What I would suggest is that you just get whatever you can afford, as many as you can afford, and as best quality as you can afford. If you can't afford Prismacolor, the next best is probably Prang, but I'll tell you the worst is usually Crayola. But get whatever you like. Now in my next step down, it might be Tuscan Red. In the shadow corner, I'm going to press a little harder, gradually ease up, creating a little bit shorter fade. So the darker we go, the shorter the fade gets. And do it in both corners. Now you're going to want to take your time more so than what I'm doing right here. But for time purposes, I'm trying to move pretty quickly. All right, so we could stop there. Or if you want to go another step down, we can go the darker brown. All right, so the idea is to just go as dark as you want, layer as many layers as you can. And then what's left now is going to be our highlight in the center. Now, you could take your white and just go right on top of the color that's there, but one little trick that I've learned is that colored pencil, Prismacolor, will stain the paper. So what you can do is just kind of erase a little streak in the center, and then when you come in with the white, that white really pops out, as opposed to mixing directly with the color that's there. This way it just pops a little bit more. Now I could keep layering and layering and layering until we blend out all those white specks. If you're okay with it this way, then just do that. So our next example, we'll try some different shades of blue. All right, so maybe we want to start with a light blue. This is true blue. I'm going to press a little bit harder in the corners. I'm going to ease up my pressure as I move to the highlight. Keep your marks close together. And then when you hit the highlighted center, you're just going to kind of use real light pressure. And in your shadow corners, press a little bit harder. I'm being a little bit sloppy here, but I'm trying to move as quickly as I can. You take your time. Do the best job that you can. Okay, so there's my first step. My next step down might be ultramarine. Whatever you have available. In this case, my next darker color is going to be ultramarine. Press a little harder on your shadow side. Ease up the pressure, taper it out. However far you decide that shadow goes up, in this case it'll be about a third of the way or so. Same from the other side, taper it out about a third of the way up. And in my next step down is indigo blue. Now in my personal opinion, I wouldn't necessarily go a lot darker than indigo blue very often. Indigo blue is kind of my black for the most part. I kind of feel like black is somewhat the death of color. Black is a little bit overused, especially in colored pencil when there's so many other dark options. But if you like to use black, you go right ahead. I'm going to go ahead and use black just to show you. If you want to go a step darker than indigo, use your black if you want. That black's going to go really dark really fast. Okay. So then we're going to treat our highlight in the center. And what I would suggest, you can see it a little bit better with the blues, is that you might erase off a little bit of that. Then come in with your white. And then you can kind of taper and fade the white into the other colors next to it as well. Now, ideally, if I had enough time, what I would do is keep layering these same colors over and over and over again. Maybe 3 times, maybe 4 times, until I've kind of blended out all those little white specks in the background. You can still see a few white specks, you don't have to get carried away with it. But when you're adding color with colored pencil, right, it just looks more professional if you layer it and blend it till you kind of get rid of that white background. All right, and in this illustration here, these have just been layered multiple times, however many times it takes to get rid of the little white specks in the background. It's going to give you a lot more bolder color, and I think you're going to be a lot happier with your illustrations. So remember, step down as gradually as you can, try different color combinations, have fun with it, and good luck with your illustrations. See you in the next video.